Let us bow our heads with respect to the fallen. Our dearest friend, Budget PC Gaming, has yet again succumbed to the 2020 virus. But what are we going to do about this? We're going to be putting together a lovely budget build on the channel today to honour our lost friend, Budget Build. This intro makes no sense, but this video is going to be great. You're going to love it. So we're putting together something that's nice, budget-friendly gaming PC. Now, obviously, if you were to build something with this budget that we're going for, around £600, back, a couple of years ago, you'd definitely be getting more for your money, but you just have to work in the market that you're operating in, and that's what we're doing today, getting the best that we can from our budget. If you're somebody that really cannot stretch further to get one of those more mid-range to high-end PCs where you would actually end up getting better value, this might be something to consider. So let's go through it. We're going to go through the parts list, we're going to go through the build, we're going to actually have some gameplay footage to show you the real life performance. We're also going to be testing temperatures as well. All these things are going to be coming up, so stick around. We've got a quick sponsor spot, then we're going to go over the parts. So see you in a second. Walla walla la!
This video is brought to you in partnership with jcpccustoms.com, purveyors of fine gaming PCs. But why buy from JCPC Customs? There are three pillars to what we do: enthusiast grade build quality, stunning good looks that you are proud to display, and all at a fair price. But how do you get your hands on one? Well, we've got three methods. We have the ready to go PC section. These are PCs that are already built, ready to ship out with optimized specifications, so excellent for the most fuss-free experience. For those that want to spec out themselves, you can use our configurator listing, and this is where you can choose some lists of parts that we have available to us. But for the most granular experience, the truly custom experience, you can use our Custom Spec service, and this is where you fill out our Google form. You can choose every component, even down to the model number, and any other accoutrements that you also want with the PC can be accommodated here. So thank you very much for watching, and head to jcpccustoms.com to learn more.
Okay, yeah, thanks for sticking with the boys. Sticking with the boys. Oh, God, right, I've literally just got to get on with this video now because this is getting silly. All these asides, all these jokes. This is not a joke. This is a gaming PC, guys. Come on. CPU, let's go. Intel i3. Yes, an i3 10105F. 4-core 8-thread processor. Right, so don't get bogged down with the fact that this is an i3. People always go, I want an i5 or an i7. I don't want an i3. It's because you don't really understand, which is fine. You didn't have to understand. It's just you don't understand that the i3, i5-ness of it doesn't really matter. It's all about what performance you're getting out of it. So, for instance, this i3 10105F, 4-core 8-thread, it's going to knock the socks off an i7 4790K. Even though that's an i7, it's from many, many years ago. So now the i3s are going to be coming up. Really good budget choice. 4-core 8 threads, pretty nice for those sort of more entry-level games. If you're not trying to be shooting for high FPS whilst also streaming and that kind of thing, your 4-core is going to be absolutely fine. And for this build today, the i3 10105F is nice. That gives it a little bit of extra speed over the 10100F, just an extra 100 megahertz. In real life, probably not much different, but it does come with a nice black Intel stock cooler, which does make it definitely worth it over the 10100F plane. So obviously, speaking of CPU cooler, that's the cooler we're using. It's a stock cooler that's included. Actually, for i3s and i5s, the locked i5s, the stock cooler is adequate, actually. It's not too bad, especially for gaming workloads, no problem. If you're somebody that's going to be running Blender or video editing, then the stock cooler is not going to be enough, but in that situation, you wouldn't be running this CPU anyway. Well, let's hope. So there you go. Motherboard, going entry level with this, Gigabyte H410M S2H V3. Now, not going to lie, this is probably one of the lowest motherboards you can get that will fit this CPU, but it's, again, using our budget to get the best value for money. On the motherboard, going for a better motherboard than this is not going to get us anything that would help us, really, would it? We've got an i3 CPU. It's not going to be using very much power, 65 watts tops. This motherboard is easily capable of handling a 65 watt TDP CPU, no problem whatsoever. Yes, it's got 2 memory slots, but that's fine. We could still get 16 gig in there, which is plenty for gaming. And the thing is, this whole thing with the upgrade path, this future-proofing thing, I don't get it. The thing is, this socket, this LGA socket, you're not going to be able to upgrade to anything anyway, because by the time you feel like you want to do an upgrade, all the parts for this platform are going to be discontinued anyway. So this whole thing of buying an expensive motherboard for future-proofing is just not a good idea. Expensive, high-quality motherboards are worth it for more expensive builds, yes, because you do get some more features, you get more stability in the system, but when you're using an i3 and we're going for a budget system, it's absolutely fine to use a cheaper motherboard. It's absolutely fine, unless there is a specific feature that you need on the higher motherboards. Alright, so that's my rant over. Welcome to my TED Talk. See you later. TED Talk's over. Onto the memory. 16 gigs. That's 2 lots of 8, so it's dual channel. Team Vulcan, so nice sort of grey style RAM, pretty generic. DDR4 3200 CL16. Now you might think, oh come on, it's 2022, get some 3600 RAM. You'd be wrong there, because the Intel i3s, i5s, the locked ones, they won't let you go past 2666 anyway, so this RAM is not even going to run at 3200, so what's the point of spending more money on more expensive RAM that you can't even use? So there you go. Storage, nice 500GB SN550 classic Western Digital NVMe SSD. That means our Windows is going to load up quickly. We've got space for a good 4 or 5 games of like large size. If you've got smaller games, even more games. And to be honest, most people tend to just go through a rotation of 2 or 3 games, so oftentimes 500GB is plenty. And indeed, storage is one of the easiest things to add to a PC over time. So easy peasy. That's a good choice there. Now the video card we have is the Gigabyte OC GTX 1650 4GB. So yes, the 1650 is a little bit of an older graphics card, but for the entry level, it's actually still pretty decent. So you've got features like the hardware encoder, which you don't get on things like the Radeon 6500 XT, so that's something important to note. You also have access to NVENC, not the really posh version of NVENC, but you do have NVENC, so you can capture your gameplay with shadow play. That's actually really important to a lot of people. The card itself is a one-fan design, which normally I would absolutely hate, but it's not too bad because the 1650 doesn't require a lot of cooling because it's not a particularly powerful chip, so I'm fine with a one fan for this one. Usually I'd say absolutely no way. But performance-wise, it should be fine for those kind of Fortnite-type games, Valorant, that kind of thing, and it would get you, probably medium settings, 1080p on most games as well, so it's still a decent foray into gaming PCs. Obviously, if you buy a PS5, which is going to be a similar price to this PC, it's going to absolutely blow it out with the water, but it's kind of it's not an apples to apples comparison, a PC versus a console, is it? Which is probably a topic for a separate video. The case we're using today is the Neutron Lab Galaxy. I saw this on eBay. It was about 37 quid. I thought that looks pretty nice. It's a bit like the LAN called 215. It's a bit like the GameMax F15 mesh. Really good. 2 giant 200mm fans on the front, and we've got a little RGB fan on the back as well for exhaust. I think this is really good value. This is like a slept-on case. I think it's absolutely marvellous. So you'll be seeing that in action later as well. The power supply we have is the EVGA 500BQ. It's a 500 watt bronze rated, I think it's semi-modular? I think it's semi, or is it full? I can't remember, but it's some kind of modular. Plenty for this system. You can even put something like an RTX 3060 class card in this. Absolutely no problem handling it through this power supply. Got these on a nice deal as well. So I think that's fantastic. If I was going to change one thing in this build, it probably would be the power supply. So I'd probably go for something like a Cooler Master 750 watt bronze, because they're only about £20 more expensive, but it means you're going to be able to keep it for years and years through your upgrades. Whereas the 500 watt, it's going to be fine if you stick to that sort of 60 class of card. But if you say in the future, listen, I want to keep my case and everything, but I want to get a higher end system, then having the better power supply there is handy, but not a big deal, really. That's just something that I would be thinking about. We've got Wi-Fi and USB stick and a Bluetooth USB stick as well to connect it up, but you don't really care about that for a PC build, do you? You don't care about that. Anyway, so that's the parts list. Thanks for sticking around. Let's get into a little build montage, and then we'll come back to see the gaming performance. Oh, baby, leg it up, good time. So there's the build. I think, you know, for a budget system, actually looks pretty good. We've got some nice RGB, we've got good airflow. These are all things you don't often find on very budget builds. Certainly better than something you'd get from an OEM like Dell. So overall, yeah, pretty happy with how it looks. The only problem is, because it's a bigger case, you've got quite a small motherboard, small components, it does look a little bit sort of cramped in the corner, I will admit that. However, I think at least it looks neat. It's not something that's completely trash. You've got plenty of room to upgrade in the future if you want to add like new parts into this system. So overall, I think I'm happy with it, especially for that budget end of the system. But what about the performance? Let's jump straight into some gaming. So, Apex Legends, actually pretty dang surprised with the kind of performance we can get here. So we're playing on sort of medium settings here on Apex Legends. Our average frame rate's about 140. That's nice. And our FPS 1% low is just under 100. I think that's really good for a budget system. You know, you pair this with a nice 1080p 144Hz monitor, you're going to be absolutely balling. I think this is absolutely beautiful. So let's move on to some other gaming next. So let's talk about our old friend Fortnite. So we're kicking ass and taking names in Fortnite. And yeah, again, I mean, this is exactly the kind of game that this is designed for, isn't it? We're getting around 194 FPS on average, with the 1% lows around 120. And that is pretty good, isn't it? I mean, even through these sort of like build fights, I know they're not like scrim level or anything, but even through the build fights, we're maintaining a high FPS, and that's really important because sometimes you can get bogged down in these kind of situations where there's lots going on. So very, very happy with this. Great performer for Fortnite. You know, you've got some of this Fortnite mad 1080p 140Hz monitor. You're absolutely laughing with this system. Absolutely laughing. So very, very happy indeed with that. What about some sort of heavier games then? So let's talk about Red Dead Redemption 2. So Red Dead is somewhere where this did struggle a little bit more. So our average FPS was just shy of 42, which is okay. Actually, for this game, is not too bad. If you were to put the quality settings down to sort of low to medium, I'm confident you could get a 60 FPS experience in this game, which is usually plenty for most people. Also, bear in mind that on the consoles, this actually runs at 30 FPS most of the time, and people think it's fine. So that is something to think about, but usually PC, like the 60 FPS is the minimum you want to go for. Right, okay, so we're nearly there. Couple more tests. So let's talk about Shadow of the Tomb Raider. This will only be a quick one. Using the built-in benchmark, average FPS 49. Again, this is on the highest preset as well, so pop this down to something like medium, easily clearing 60 FPS in this game, and that makes it perfectly playable. So looking at all this gaming test that we've done so far, very happy chappy. Considering the money we're putting in, the performance we're getting out, pretty happy with this. Personally, I would rather have a GTX 1650 over the newly released RX 6500 XT, because with the 6500 XT, if you try and use that on a budget board like this, which has only got PCIe 3, you're going to have stutters, it's going to be horrible. I'm not a fan of the 6500 XT. I appreciate that in this market, it's sometimes the only thing you can buy, but I just don't think it's a good buy. I think you should save your money up for something better, or just get a console. It's just as simple as that. Other tests that we've done is our temperature test, so we'll be putting those results up on screen now. I mean, you're not going to be expecting fantastic temperatures from a stock cooler, so it will get a little toasty, but that's fine, because remember, we're using Prime 95, which is completely unrealistic. Your games are never going to hit this kind of load, so it's a worst case scenario. With the video card temperatures, I think that's fine. Pretty much exactly what I would expect from a single fan card, and it's not going to be throttling back the GPU in any way, so very, very happy with that. I want to know your thoughts and opinions. Put them down in the comments, and I want to see you in the next video. I want to see you subscribe, I want to see you like, I want to see you comment, I want to see you do all of it, because I want to see you. I want to see you bad. I haven't seen you in so long. How are you? How are the kids? Oh yeah, not too bad. Thing is, oh yes, well it's okay. Oh yeah, well you never know what the world's like these days.